So for a document, we're going to look at that's from a publisher. So if you got publisher materials, some downloaded Word documents in this case, let's check some stuff for accessibility. And I'm going to comment on the headings, formatting, images, equations, tables, and I'm going to show how converting to an ePub is also a way you can check it out. So there is also the accessibility checking in Microsoft Word, but that's not going to necessarily catch a lot of what we do with math. And so this is just an overall for everything, including the math that's involved in the worksheet. In this first document that we have, that has an actual header, and it's actually designated as a title heading in the header. Now, the thing about this header, it will not show up if you were to convert this to ePub. So let me show you the ePub. So this is one of the same type of worksheets. It also had a header. I converted it to an ePub to check it out, and the header did not show up. And the reason that's an issue is because for some students, maybe a Word document is not working out. And so the quick way to get it accessible and online without actually transferring everything to a Canvas page or typing up all the HTML is to convert it to an ePub and create that accessible link for the student. So this converts to an ePub, and one of the things that now is missing is that header. So that would be the first issue, is having those main headers on there. In terms of headings and how they're labeled, so if I click on objectives, it is a heading 1. So it is, that heading is labeled okay. Usually a heading 1 is like the overall title, not title because I guess they have a title heading, but is all the big overall picture. They use heading 1 all throughout all the documents, which I just have not seen that quite as much. But then they jump down to heading 3. Heading 2 never shows up. So that's just something that gets skipped and kind of makes a confusing organizational pattern. So that's not something I would really recommend. I don't know that it's actually not accessible if it's that way. But under the objectives, the numerical numbering system, the bullets are fine. And then this blue line doesn't read, so that's fine. The issue also here is in the formatting of these underlines. When the reader goes through here, because they used just tab and underline, then it reads underline, 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 and then reads the rest of the text. That's not great for a student to have to hear over and over again. So that would be an issue. And again, this video is just talking about all the issues, and then the next video we can talk about the solutions. And scrolling through, also right here, this big blank space was done using returns instead of formatting paragraphs. So it reads blank, 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 blank throughout the reader. That's not something we want either. Again, the underline is in this here. And when these solution boxes come up, the blue line is not read by the reader, and it reads just blank, blank. So that would be an issue as well. And scrolling further down, there is an image here, and this image, you can check whether or not it's accessible by going to the format and checking alt text. There is no alt text, so it reads it as graphic unlabeled. So if a blind student was, or a visually impaired student was trying to understand what was here, they would have no idea what is going on in this graphic. So that is indeed not accessible. And that happens in the graphics throughout. And so that's this document. This second document is another worksheet. It actually has some math formulas in it, but they actually use equation editor. And you can tell by what the box looks like surrounding it. Now the issue with this is when I converted this to an ePub, it's only either going to read it as an object or leave it blank entirely. And so this is not something that, even if a reader could read it on Word document, if you go to convert it to ePub, it won't. So it could be slightly accessible to students, but it's not generated in MathML, so it's not fully accessible. So these right here, we have a solution for doing that. Rather than retyping the whole thing, we do have the option of Equatio right now, and hopefully we'll have that in the future as well for being able to copy these quickly and fix those, and I'll show that in another video. But those equations are not accessible as is. Now throughout these documents, I also noticed many uses of tables. And so for instance, here is a table that is being used to just format the numbers. A big no-no with using tables is to use them for formatting because we want headers, we want to describe what the table is in alt text, because students have the ability to jump straight to tables using the screen reader, and also the title of this table would just be a bunch of numbers so the student wouldn't know what they're trying to look at here. Here's another example of a table being used to format. You can see here's the table just for the title and for the decorative image there. Don't do that. That's an actual table. Table should be used to house information, not for formatting purposes. And again, we have another graphic. It does not have any kind of alt text to it, so it just reads as graphic and labeled. Continuing on with the idea of tables, here is another worksheet where a table is put in. It has nice bolding, but it does not have proper headings. And so in this instance, up here on the right, these selections for the headings, it's going to treat this first column as a heading column and this whole first row, and also this middle column is actually a whole blank column. So it doesn't read well, it's not an accessible table, and the information would be confusing for a student using a screen reader. And the last comment about tables is there was no alt text or title in them. So for instance, that table I showed where it had the middle column was blank and it didn't have proper headings. It also didn't have proper alt text, so when they go to look for their tables with the screen reader, it just reads that first row and it's really confusing. And so we need to put alt text in there to give our tables actual titles. So the things we've looked at in this video for just checking accessibility is headings, formatting, checking underlines and blanks, images, equations, tables, and whether or not the tables were used for formatting, and the actual tables if they were formatted properly. And you can convert it to an ePub, and as a reminder how to do that, one way to do that is to go up to math type and publish to math page. That'll, if everything's at MathML and how it's supposed to be, it will publish all of the equations correctly as well. But that was one way I also did a quick check. So the headings, you saw me just clicking on spaces to see what headings came up at the top. Formatting, I just went up and down with my cursor. That also formatting the Microsoft Accessibility Checker will help with that. But if it doesn't catch the underline blanks, that's something you can do just by clicking through. It would just jump over with the arrow. It should do, on the underlines, it should do one complete jump, not a whole bunch of jumps over the same underline. That's how you know it'll be read over and over again. And then images, you check the alt text just by right-clicking and formatting the image and checking the alt text. Equations, you click on it, you'll know whether or not it's math type. And tables, if you click on something, you saw me go to the upper left and look at the headings and how that was done. So those are the ways you can check without even having a screen reader. If you do have a screen reader, that's even better. You can check with that. And so those are the problems that were found on these worksheets. The next video will talk about how to solve those problems.